I wish my brain worked. I want to say we want to create like a whole body of postmodern, like post-humanism modifications, where we have like nanobots holding our eyes open and inflatable bones, so we're like indestructible and we can advance to the next level of evolution. And we're going to come to the conclusion, as well as finding this best Jeff Goldblum.
Welcome to Forever in Bloom, a cinematic explorations. Fuck. Welcome to Forever in Bloom, a cinematic exploration, celebration and investigation into Jeff Goldblum.
First off, what film are we talking about today?
I nearly said Silverado. Transylvania 65000.
I wrote down Transylvania 5-6,000.
I mean, that's good enough, because other than the title song, where does the 65000 feature in the film?
It's the name of the hotel that they're staying in.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, when what's his name? Feos, who's a Don, answers the phone. It's like, this is the Transylvania 65000.
You're right. I didn't even put those two things together.
Man, wake up.
I thought that was just like a really meta decision. They were like, right, we're just going to introduce the film within the film.
The title is apparently a pun on like Pennsylvania 65000, although I don't know what that is.
It's probably a hyper-specific joke to like US area codes or something.
Yeah.
Which, if you ask me, is ripe soil for British comedy. Because we know all about it. we know all about. I know loads of things about Pennsylvania. Ask me one. Ask me something about Pennsylvania.
Who's the mayor?
Oh.
I'm not googling.
I can see the glare of googling your glasses.
Also, I don't think that a state has a mayor. But let's just find out.
Well, Transylvania has a mayor.
That's true, and I think...
But is it a state? No, because it's in Romania. Is it a state or is it a city? It's a town. It's a town.
Is a state just a city?
No.
This is such a great podcast.
Anyway,
Beth, what's this film about?
So Jeff Goldblum is a journalist, and him and a guy whose name I've forgotten.
Okay.
Gil.
What's his name?
Gil, who is a feathery-haired simp.
That sums up the film. Really.
I didn't get the featheriness, but I do know what you mean, actually.
Yeah.
I get the featheriness. He's got this big, massive, like 80s ungroomed blonde hair, and
it's fairly groomed.
Is it? It's got that kind of 80s frizz about it.
Yeah.
That a lot of men seem to have. That then just naturally disappeared in the 90s.
That's the feather, mate. That's the feathered hair.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen him in some things, but I can't work out what.
What's his name? It's Ed Begley Jr. He's been in a few things.
Yeah, I'm looking through the list right now. Oh, he's in Ghostbusters. Oh, he's in the new Ghostbusters.
It's a fairly decent cast in this, to be fair. You've got Jeff Goldblum, you've got Ed Begley Jr., you've got Carol Kane, you've got Gina Davis. It's not a bad
Apparently
cast.
all of the main cast were all over 6 foot tall.
Yeah, apparently the average of 6'3". Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I specifically copied the exact wording of the guy on IMDb that mentioned this, because his phrasing is beautiful. He said, although this Although this comedy film is reputed to be short on laughs, it is long on cast. The main characters, Jeff Goldblum, Ed Begley Jr., Michael Richards, Jeffrey Jones, and Gina Davis, all average 6'3" tall.
Long on cast. I bet
Yeah,
you're so
like
proud
that.
of that one.
It should be, mate.
You know,
Short
he
on
wrote,
laughs,
he wrote
long
that
on
review and then
cast.
high-fived himself, for sure.
I just high-fived myself. It's the most unsatisfying thing.
It's not good. It's just clapping. It's called clapping.
Yeah. Oh shit! Yeah.
It's just that you're
but
just
this
giving
is
yourself a
film.
single clap, which is even more demeaning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And you have to at least high-five yourself multiple times. But anyway, this is a film where once again Jeff is playing a journalist, although a different kind of journalist this time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a journalist
so-
that was hired for his vocabulary.
He's
He
working at what seems to be like just a trashy tabloid.
It's called The Sensation.
Was that what it's called? The Sensation. I only made 9 actual notes about this film.
9?
9 lines.
Oh, wow.
And
Looks like I'll be carrying it this episode, mate.
no, it's all in
Deserve
here.
it. You carried the last one. You took a week off.
It's all in here. But the first 5 of those 9 are all quotes from the first scene.
Well, I should point out, like 1 minute and 23 seconds in, we see a front page on one of the Sensation newspapers on the wall, and the headline says, "Wet dreams, are alien creatures using your bodies for sex while you sleep?"
And I mean, that's a question I've always wanted to know the answer to.
So that's the kind
it would
of
explain lots of things.
that's the level
There's
of
two-
journalism that they're working on.
Yeah, the
Is
two
these-
other headlines you see are, "I was dead for a week and loved it,"
Good.
and "Nuns run through the Vatican naked."
Also good.
I mean, I guess like I'm trying to think of like the tabloid equivalent in the UK now.
The Sun.
The Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like less political than the Sun though.
Yeah, one of those magazines whose names I can't remember ever. You know, the ones that are just like.
Like a kind of
Yeah.
like a gender neutral Heat.
Yeah. Or BuzzFeed. It's like it's kind
Yeah,
of
it's
on the
BuzzFeed,
sort
isn't
of-
it?
It's clickbait, mate.
It's listicles.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is
clickbait
the
before the internet.
70s
Tabloid.
80s clickbait, yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things I quite liked, I thought that Jeff was quite Jeff in that first scene, especially in when he was very, very clearly very vexed, saying, "Didn't you hire me to raise the journalistic level of this paper?"
Yeah.
And the way in which he says it is very good. And all I was thinking through this beginning scene is, I think we're Jeff in this situation, and we're trying to raise the journalistic level of film studies. We're trying. We're
film
trying to bring
studies,
some-
you mean film studies of like one particular decade in America?
Yeah,
'Cause that's
and
what
of
it
one
just
and
feels
of one
like.
actor.
Yeah.
But also the line. I'm just gonna drop this in here. Then we don't need to talk about it anymore. But one of my favorite lines in the film is from Gil talking to the editor, saying, "You can't fire me. I'm your son." And the editor immediately spins around and just says, "Prove it." And then end of scene.
I
They
knew
leave.
you'd like that.
It has got
Like,
some. Actually, that first scene probably is the funniest. It's got some really clever moments in
There
that
are some
first
good lines
scene.
in this film, man. Some of it. I mean, we do sadly get the return of sleazy sex pest Jeff, don't we?
That's
Of
true.
course.
That's true. And we do have. There are some. I think it's hard to talk about the film without talking about some kind of harmful stereotypes
Yeah.
of Romanian people.
Yeah, I mean, the range of accents in this movie is absolutely insane.
I read
And
that a
Warwick-
lot of the I read that a lot of
No.
the actors are from Transylvania.
Well, then I don't think their accents are very good in that case.
Because I thought that I was thinking
it's
their
a lot of the
accents are
background
bad.
ones. It's a lot of the
Oh.
background ones.
Not
They
the
were all
talking
hired.
ones.
Like they may have like 1 or 2 lines, but like very small roles were all hired. Like day of, or sorry, like the day before each scene kind of thing. It was like very last minute on everything.
Fair enough.
It's not great on that sense, but there is still some cracking lines. I'd probably say my favourite line in this is when Jeff is in the restaurant on a date and the waiter comes along.
Are you local people or just pissing through?
I'm just pissing through, I think.
I did like that. That did, and he very knowingly says, he joins in with the gag.
It's like, we're just pissing through.
But then they do sing New York, New York. Very
There
badly.
is quite a few
so.
cultural language kind of gags in this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the
they're
80s
just
now.
kind of capitalizing on that sense of misunderstanding between borders. And there's one gag that keeps coming up where someone from Transylvania will say to an American person, "As you guys say in America, till the cows come home." And then they don't explain that, and the Americans just look really confused, and that happens 3 or 4 times. I quite like comedy like that, where it doesn't feel the need to explain itself or spoon feed you. It just kind of happens, and if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you just move on. Or if it feels like there's nothing to get, and therefore you're not feeling like, oh, I should laugh because it's a funny moment, because it's not. But that awkwardness makes it quite funny in a way.
Yeah.
But which is why I've kind of found this film a bit weird, because a lot of the comedy was actually a little bit too smart for kids to get. It was a little bit too subtle, or it was really, really not subtle and really slapstick. There was no in the middle.
Are you assuming that this was a kids' film?
PG-13 is
I
the rating.
kind of got the sense of the campiness of it, and the costumey nature of it, and the cartoonish mannerisms. I kind of got a sense that it would be appeasing to kids.
It's listed as a comedy horror.
Yeah, so I've read some reviews of this film. And they were not children that were writing these reviews based on the way that they were talking about Gina Davis.
Children write film reviews.
It's a very good point.
But anyway, we should explain what the film is about.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they get sent to. So 2 journalists get sent to Transylvania to. They're
Look for
basically.
Frankenstein.
All they're given is. So the film starts with this piece of found footage of these 2 kids messing around, and apparently they get chased or abducted by a monster, and they think that it's Frankenstein. So the leader of the tabloid newspaper sends them over there to investigate. And then on the way there, Jeff Goldblum spots this attractive young woman with her daughter and tries to hit on the daughter. Oh, no, no, no. He tries to hit on the woman. He tells his co-investigator to go play with the child so he can go chat up the child's mum, which I think is very 80s and weird.
He agrees to do that.
He goes, "No, I'm not playing with her. She's not my age." Which I think is a fucking hilarious line. He is like a man-child. His co-worker is a
100%.
solid man-child. And they get this older brother, younger brother dynamic, which is kind of entertaining.
Well, interestingly, IMDb lists the keywords or buzzwords as this as father-son dynamic.
Father-son, yeah. I can see
or father-son relationship.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And then, so it kind of, as the story unfolds, it's kind of this comedy, horror, parody type thing. And they basically approach a number of different monsters who all turn out to be normal, real people in a very Scooby-Doo-esque
a wild ending.
reveal scene. Yeah. That fucking reveal scene just went on, and I just...
Got worse and worse.
It got
and
worse and
more
worse.
problematic.
Yeah.
But I guess we will get there in the end.
We will.
Yeah, that's the ending.
Yeah, so they fly over to Transylvania and they stay at this hotel where they meet the mayor, who's a really weird dude, clearly hiding a lot of things. And they're introduced to Fejos, who is the concierge who just loves practical jokes and
is the funniest person in this movie, I think.
Yeah, but is still reduced to that fucking stereotype of just is good. That every vaguely European character says in an American thing.
You're forgetting the very important at the end of that sentence. It's good, yeah? That happens it's literally every 3rd time he says it, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they get introduced when they go knock on the door of the hotel, and he just pops out this weird Robert Downey Jr. looking fucking puppet.
I'm so glad. I am so...
Yeah, that puppet was pretty spooky, wasn't it? That was probably the scariest part of the film. That puppet.
Note
I'll say that.
6 of 9 for me was, is that a tiny Robert Downey Jr. in regards to that little puppet?
Nice.
I couldn't stop looking at it. Also, I've just clocked that the hotel, the mayor, is the Weasley father in the Harry Potter films.
No, he's not.
Is he? Yes, he is. Is he not?
No, he's not.
No, it's
I'm pretty sure he is.
No,
No, he's not. He's not. I just had to check, and he's just completely not. My brain just.
Seb, those films are like 25 years apart, mate.
What's your point?
That they would look exactly the same age.
Yeah, you're right.
He is, however, in Beetlejuice and co-stars alongside Gina Davis
Yes.
and a
He was
young
also
Alec
blind.
Baldwin. And I'd say a
This
lot of the
is-
art direction is very similar. If you compare the two films, it's very, very
Yeah.
similar.
This guy, I can't remember the director's name. I'll find it. He made a lot of weird comedies around like monster stuff. Like he did the Dracula Dead and Loving It with Leslie Nielsen.
I've actually never seen that, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Okay. This is also actually a really badly rated film on the internet.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 stars on IMDb, I think.
Yeah. I think from all the reviews I read, it was people saying, I loved this film as a child and watching it back now, I hate it. And it
Yeah.
solely like rides on that nostalgia front. So I think in the 80s, there would have been a generation of kids that watched it and thought it was amazing. And now they're watching it back and
Yeah.
it's just a bad film.
There are
It is a
some.
bad film.
I did laugh a bit. I will be. I think to be
There were some
very
bits that
honest,
kind of got me, man.
there's one scene that made me laugh more than anything else, and it's relatively near to the beginning, and it involves the classic gag of your arm or leg not actually being real and it being a fake arm or leg.
Did that get you, mate?
The hand didn't, but when he repeatedly would put the leg in the door as the door was being closed.
Well, that's always the setup for when later on he actually gets his leg caught and then Gil just yanks him out the fucking cupboard.
Yeah,
But no, I'd probably say
genuinely did make me laugh.
my funniest moment from the film that got me the most was when Gil was climbing up a wall to try and get into the doctor's place.
You're right.
And then it's quite a high wall, and as like these women come round, he tries to like act natural and as if you would like just lean on the walls with just your elbows, but he's like 4 foot off the ground just using his elbows to lean on the wall, and it just really got me, man. It's so funny.
Yeah, there is some good physical humour, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the humour that does work is somewhat slapstick in its sort of like physicality.
Yeah.
It's
think-
got some good burns and shutting down old Gil.
He does. Jeff plays a character that is quite aggressive towards his colleague.
Yeah, I mean, at one point he like starts to strangle him, but there's like a little bit of a weird amount of Jeff energy that comes through in it, as if like if Jeff was gonna snap and kill someone, I feel like this is how, because he was just singing everything he hated about him.
For
What are you
35
doing?
years, I've washed your
Don't
clothes.
choke me like
I've
that.
listened to your
No.
stories. I've put up with
Wait,
your
come on.
crap.
That's too
Now
tight.
that we're here, I'm going to wring your neck.
No.
'cause you're
Elizabeth!
the thing.
I like the moment in the very opening scene where he's saying,
Look, when you talk to me, don't touch me.
I don't touch you.
No, what do you call this and that and this? I don't want you to do this or this, and especially this.
I don't do that.
Well, in case you think of it, I don't want you to do it.
it's just like a really funny moment of physical comedy and kind of sets up their dynamic between the two characters quite well.
Yeah, if he wasn't such a sleazebag, I'd quite enjoy him in this, Jeff, really. Because, I mean,
I
he
think
complains for a lot of the time that they're not doing work, and he wants to be doing work because he's not contributing anything to journalism. And then when Gil actually kind of finds that there's some truth in these monsters and shit around this town, he's just blowing it off to go on dates and picnics with the girl he's been harassing
Yeah,
the whole time.
I feel like they maybe fell a bit short in terms of like, they were like, well, okay, well, we need a reason for Jeff Goldblum's character to want to be there. Well, oh, let's just shove in a love interest.
Yeah.
And you don't really care for the love interest. It's not like
Well, no,
it's not
'cause
like
it's not really that. He's being a sex pest.
Yeah, he's being a sex pest. She's not really that interested. She only cares about the well-being of her daughter, which I guess then gives him an incentive to help find her daughter. That's like the main reason they probably
Even
did
if
that in
Before
there.
that, even before like she goes missing, he's on the phone to her trying to like organise a date, and this girl's what, like 5, 6 years
Has to
old,
be no older than that.
and she's saying she's got no one to look after the kid, and he's like, well, the hospital's got a babysitter. Hospitals don't do the babysitting things.
Hotel.
Also-
I don't think it was a hospital.
Hotel. And
Send her to the hospital.
but then he literally just says like, yeah, but she's old enough, right? She'll be all right.
Yeah, he says like, oh, she's very responsible.
Yeah.
Like trying to praise her just to sleep with
Yeah.
her mum. Oh, it's so sleazy.
And I mean, we do have to come to the conclusion that it's kind of his fault that the young girl was lost in the woods.
Gets
'Cause he
stolen
was
by
distracting.
Chewbacca. Yeah.
Chewbacca?
Oh no, not Chewbacca. Oh, the one does look like
Frankenstein?
Chewbacca. Frankenstein, and then the hairy man,
The Wolfman.
the wolf man.
Yeah.
There's,
Yeah, so in general there was once they get to this place, they find out this guy's got a load of like a wolf man, a mummy, and a vampire, and a Frankenstein, and all this sort of shit hidden around. And the doctor has, whenever he gets angry and is on like the mad scientist side, because he has these two sides. One's like a diplomat or something. The other side's like, oh no, it's just a normal doctor.
it's like a
But,
Jekyll and Hyde situation, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a much better way of putting it.
But it's a Jekyll and Hyde situation that's based purely on whether he's in his lab or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It steps out and he's
Which-
fine. Steps in, ruffles his hair and goes nuts.
Yeah, fully. So this is okay. There's a strange dynamic between two characters in this film that we've not yet spoken about.
I hate them. I hate them so
It's
much.
which is, and it's the I've forgotten their names. Do you have them to hand? Or
Yeah.
Jack and Jill.
No, it's Radu and
Yeah, that's-
Loopy.
Oh, you're not
That's
talking
right.
about. You're not talking about the hunched over couple.
yeah, Radu
Yeah.
and Loopy.
They're called Jack and Jill.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are. In Wikipedia, it says that.
What?
They're?
The butlers, the butler and the maid.
Yeah.
No, they always call him Radu.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it.
Where
It's
the hell
Radu
did
and
I
Loopy.
get Jack and Jill from?
Beth, are you aware that there is a Transylvania 5000 from the 50s as well?
Don't.
Beth,
I
which
watched-
film did you watch?
I watched
today?
Death Wish 4 again. No.
So Radu and Loopy, right?
Yeah, Carol Kane, I think.
Yeah,
Carol Kane
yeah.
plays Loopy.
So Radu is he's their take on the traditional sort of Igor man servant.
Yeah.
You know, it's all yes, master, or whatnot.
Good.
And the first scene you're introduced to him and his wife is he's in the dining room and he's asked to go and prepare them their lunch. He then goes into the kitchen, and I have never been more annoyed at a character than his wife. I think she is insufferable in the way that she sort of is like constantly like around him and a step
Yeah.
behind him. And there's a weird. It just made me intensely uncomfortable.
Do you know that entire kitchen scene is improvised?
I don't like that. I don't like that knowledge.
The the only thing that was on the script was cut and serve fruit.
Yeah, and the fact that then as a lunch he just takes them each a half grapefruit.
Yeah, I thought they were big lemons. I wasn't paying that much attention. Like, why they were just eating a big lemon?
I mean, grapefruits are nice, but that's not a whole lunch, right?
No.
People eat more than a single half grapefruit for lunch.
I don't.
I have a line that I'm hoping maybe I missed something that you two can give me some context on. And it was when everything starts to kick off in the doctor's lab where all the monsters are and stuff, when Jeff and the others are breaking in to save Gil. The Wolfman grabs and catches Jeff and says, "I've got you now, you communist."
No, I noticed that. And there's no communism talk prior for the whole
Insane.
film.
It feels
Insane.
like there could be potentially an extra layer of something slightly more political underneath, but I don't know what it is.
Do you think maybe they tried to like set up, or they like took in editing this film down to the hour-and-a-half mark, they took out a bunch of setup scenes for that gag, forgetting and then leaving the gag in at the end, and now we just have this
Potentially.
thing that makes no fucking sense. This year, this film was released on Blu-ray.
This film.
Yeah, Transylvania 65000 was released on Blu-ray February the 11th, 2020.
Who is ordering the Blu-ray?
Well, it's
Well-
like Bonsai came out in Blu-ray last year.
Speaking of who ordered things and who paid for things, there is some interesting things about the financing of this movie.
Oh yeah.
So this movie was financed by the Dow Chemical Company, who are an American like multinational chemical corporation. They're like one of the top 3 like chemical manufacturers in the world, and they financed this film in order to spend frozen finances that the company had in Yugoslavia.
I like that. I'm quite happy about the fact that
so
this film was
strange.
not just made because someone wanted to make this film. They
And
needed
someone
an
just wanted to
excuse
see
like that. to
Gina
make it.
Davis in a very deep V, the deepest of V's.
I'm not joking. When I was looking through reviews for this film, lots of people talk about her outfit.
Yeah. It's the only thing that makes it not really appropriate for kids.
Yeah.
I mean,
insane.
she looks amazing, but it is pretty bad that's... I mean, the female representation in this film isn't great.
It's garbage.
It's I'd argue it's pretty terrible.
And her whole
would
thing
say it's
about
as bad as
her
Silverado.
having low self-esteem, and that's the only reason she pretends to be a vampire. Like, she's
Yes, and it was just that she just got a nose job.
Yeah.
Like, he's talking about the fact that he completely changed someone's entire body, face, and everything, but she feels insecure because she's just got a nose job. And why, can I point out, did he keep her in chains if she just had a nose job?
And
It makes no
this
sense.
is a good point. But he did call her a nymphomaniac, so maybe it was for his own safety.
Oh, his own.
She,
Well,
There is
there's-
one good line from the Doctor, to be fair. He does sound a lot like Angry Mario when he's like the mad scientist, because an A gets put in between every word.
Yeah.
But he's someone, I think it was Loopy, I think one of the sidekicks said,
Do you want to wait for lightning, Master? I don't work with lightning. I hate it. I work with all this other shit.
he just ends like gestured vaguely to all of the machines that are in his lab.
I
it was
thought that
great.
his accent was very... I hate that we keep talking about this, but I thought his accent was like John Lithgow in
I
Buckaroo
know.
Banzai.
Yeah,
I
it
totally
was a
got
bit
that
like
vibe.
that.
I wasn't going to bring it up because I'm so over that film, but it definitely,
Yeah.
definitely some
Yeah.
vibes.
Never going to escape it.
It's just like, I wonder if they had the same tailor, who was also their vocal coach. But like, the accents in this film are all over the place.
Yeah.
That's just a thing of the 80s, isn't it? It's what we're
I
learning.
guess, yeah.
'cause they didn't
Yeah.
have voice coaches back in the 80s.
Wild time that films were made. So what's your true bloom then, people?
Oh, well, let me open up the spreadsheet so I can add these to it as we go.
I actually
Amateur.
gave it quite high. I gave it a 6.
I think that's
'Cause I-
reasonable, actually.
Really?
Yeah. He is very bloomy in this film. It's
I
the
think
mannerisms. It's
Yeah, but
I'm
he's also
reminded
very
of the earlier I'm reminded of the earlier versions of Jeff where he is a lot more out there, because I think we've had a bit of a blip recently where he's done a few films where he hasn't really featured that heavily and he hasn't really been able to bring himself to his role. And I think we're coming back now. We're coming back a bit into
Yeah.
higher True Bloom ratings in this film.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, I gave it a 2.5.
2.5.
Oh, okay.
Because so his mannerisms did come through in a bit, but he was just too much of a dickhead and angry at the world and chasing a mum for me to feel like it was our true boy. It wasn't my Jeff. That's all I'm saying. Not
Okay.
my Jeff.
But so I gave it a 5 because I'm more on Beth's side on this one.
Wow.
In that he's got some good smirks and some little eye flicks and he's got those tiny bits of Jeff that are shining through, you know.
There's a lightness and
enjoy
there's a
it.
campiness and there's a sense of humour to his sleaziness.
Yeah.
But it is still sleaziness. Do you want to hear a quick IMDb review?
Yeah, always.
Okay, so this is my favourite one. 1 out of 10 stars. They've titled it "Not Even Good for a Kid." I saw this. I saw this movie originally in the theatre when I was 10. Even at that age, the humour was mildly insulting to my adolescent intelligence.
Wow.
In the past, whenever I would see Ed Begley Jr. or Jeff Goldblum, I would cringe and start to feel very uncomfortable and even slightly sad until I was reminded of the existence of this movie today. I was unsure why I felt that way. Apparently, I had blocked out my memory of this movie, yet my negative feelings towards the two perpetrators remained. Apparently, I forgot that I had seen this movie, but subconsciously mourned the pieces of my soul that had been stolen, nay, eaten by the creators of this inhuman work. I haven't been brave enough to try watching it as an adult. I imagine that as part of the healing process that I should probably try and look at confronting this childhood fear so that I can truly put it behind me. Some regression therapy and or hypnosis might not be a bad idea either. 1 star. Yeah.
Oh my God. Sorry. There's something I'd like to drill in on there. And that this guy is a man now. He's an adult human.
Yeah.
We always assume they're dudes. Do you think that's our
we assumed the last one was a
prejudice?
woman, and then she turned out to be a guy.
I thought it was a mouse librarian.
Yeah. But, well, okay, they're an adult. They specifically say that they are an adult.
Yeah.
And they haven't watched this film since they were a child.
Yeah.
So they've been like steaming on this film for 20 years to then be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to write a review. And then like just goes and like slams the
Without
movie
even
online.
rewatching it because they've said they're too afraid to rewatch
Yeah,
it. So they
just
must
so
have like
angry about their
glanced
memory.
at a trailer or a poster or something and then got up the IMDb page and then written this review without even rewatching it.
That's such
Like,
an
at
insane
least rewatch
mindset.
the film if you're going to roast it, right?
What's the old craft then?
I gave this a 4.
Yeah.
I
The
think
ADR is awful, man.
the ADR I did notice was pretty rough.
It's so bad.
Equally, some of the cuts are all over the place.
Yeah.
Like there were a couple of cuts that just like made no sense. Like I'm pretty sure I thought the scene was about to continue and it just sort of moved to something completely different. But some of it looks okay. So that's why it's a 4.
I
I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 4. I think it does have its moments. It has some funny physical comedy moments and some good writing, but they're so sparse and they're so far apart. And I just can't forgive the fact that it's got this label of being a comedy horror hybrid, but there's no horror in there. There is literally no horror. There's not even stabs at horror.
Yeah, that's fair. I gave it 3 for craft, and I also gave it a 3 for enjoyability in the end, because it was, there were, like you said, there were some good jokes, man. There were some funny lines that made me laugh, but the film overall was just, especially the longer it went on, the more problematic it became, and it kind of undercut all of the stuff that had come before, really.
The thing I really found recently, especially in quarantine, even more so, is that when I watch a film, the tone of the film then defines the tone of my day. And when we're watching all these films that, like, we wouldn't really choose to watch most of these films if we weren't doing this project. Yeah. So it feels so like it's such like an involuntary kind of disposition to have of like, oh, I'm watching this fucking shit comedy, not horror film from the 80s on my day off.
I think the only way I can like give a real world example of what it sometimes feels like, specifically with Silverado last week, is, when you're on like an escalator, think back to the before times when people were still allowed in shopping places.
Okay.
If you're on an escalator and the person in front of you farts, and then you have no option but to just be dragged through that fart. That is what some of these films
Never
feel
thought
like.
about it that way before. Imagine seeing like the UV filter
Yeah, the gas.
footage of that process with like someone you know. That would be horrible.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. But that's
And you're
kinda what
at
this feels
that
like
height,
sometimes.
aren't you? Depending on like how many, if you're doing the right thing and you're like a solid 2 steps behind them, especially
Yeah,
in
yeah.
today's day and age, you are like solid butt to mouth
No,
level.
this isn't like a midriff drag. You're getting your head and shoulders are being dragged straight through that cloud.
Oh, that's so vile.
Yeah.
That is so
I'd say-
vile.
Me, blame the people that made these movies.
I'm sort of like picturing it imagine what it would feel like to push your head through like a big thing of cotton wool. Like
But I
that's
feel like that would be infinitely nicer. I would
I think
rather
that would be quite
I would rather run through a mile of cotton wool than watch Silverado again. I know we're not even talking about this film. But
You
it
keep
just-
talking about Silverado. You're
know.
like this. You're like this guy. You're going to write a review in 20 years' time of Silverado.
I will. Yearly. Annual review. It's me again. Still hate it.
I watched it again this weekend.
Seb,
Yes.
Blumiverse?
So, this is a pretty easy one, I think. In that
Right.
this is now the 4th film where Jeff is a journalist.
Has it been 4?
It's been
Wow.
4,
Can you list
which
the
is
others?
wild. So we had Between the Lines.
Between the lines.
We had yeah, go on.
Special
You look like
delivery?
Yeah, and The Big Chill, and this is number 4.
Wow.
Because in The Big Chill, he's a journalist and writer,
Yeah, he is.
and these all tie together with their various. He's never doing the same job. He's always doing a slightly different role at each of these different outlets.
Well, in that's because didn't we speak about the fact that he is using journalism to learn about us as a society before he moves on to our sciences?
Absolutely. So he spent
he's
some time
every
reviewing and
sector.
writing about music. He spent some time sort of looking into, like, what did he say he was writing? An essay about like Midwestern life at the end of one of the other films.
Yeah, and you kind of get the idea that he's been doing this shitty like monster tabloid stuff for a while, and now he's got the urge to want to go off into the Middle East and see the
Yeah.
conflicts that
He wants to do conflict, and he wants to tell humanitarian stories as opposed to stories about a rape or rope factory.
He also kind of looks similar to how he did back in like the Between the Lines era with like the bigger clothes and the kind of the cooler patterns. He's not like beige man that he was in Into the Night.
So I'm pretty sure this is towards the end of his time in journalism. He's
Because he has the banging vocabulary now. That's what he got hired
Yeah.
for.
he got hired for the vocabulary, and also this film is, we have quite a lot of him in this. We actually have him in exactly 51% of the film.
Wow.
The film is an hour and 31 minutes, and he's in it for 49 point something.
Do you reckon he demanded 51%?
Maybe he was like, I have to be in it more than anyone else.
I own 51% of this film.
Yeah, maybe Jeff owns Dow Chemical Company, and it was his money that was frozen.
I don't think I could do a Jeff Goldblum impression.
No, of course you couldn't. You can't do any
I don't
impression.
think any of us could, from our track record.
I think I can do some impressions.
Oh, sorry, Scott.
I thought you were getting angry at me saying I could do impressions.
You can barely do your own voice, mate, let alone someone else's.
No, my own voice is actually a refined instrument. It's a refined tool of the craft. I know how to work these
I'm gonna
pipes
save
and-
you, Beth, because we're gonna play taglines now. Taglines and gag lines. So Seb never gets to do that impression.
Do you know what? I'm gonna stop you right there, bud.
Oh,
I'm just gonna tell you where it sits on the board so that we can move on with our lives.
I didn't give you my enjoyability, did I?
Oh no, you didn't. What is it? Beth, what is it? Okay.
Or
Okay, well, because my sheet is full of maths, it just does it automatically for me. But this is number 10.
that's
out
pretty
of
high.
18.
It's pretty high. Out of 16. No, out of 17 is what I've got here.
Right. Are you
Okay.
happy about that? Are you too happy with what you've done?
You always
Not
blame
huge-
us. You always
not
blame us for
hugely.
where it sits, and it's all three of us.
Sorry, who gave it
I-
a 2.5, a 3, and a 3? Who's sitting up there with the 5s and the 6s?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, this one's not on Liam.
That is okay. That is quite high, but
Can I take this in a slightly different direction? I'm just looking at my spreadsheet, having a really nice normal day.
All
And
right.
if I look up at a certain cell here, it says Seb equals rubbish baby cowboy. Which I'm assuming someone wrote last week and I didn't notice it.
you
Beth,
don't
that
know who
you,
it
innit?
was.
I'm
Yeah, it
gonna
was
Beth, I'm gonna assume it was you, yes. So I'm just gonna go on record and say that I'm actually a fantastic baby cowboy.
I'm going to take that off the record. I have final say over that. So.
Notice I use the equals because it's a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's actually really funny.
Multi-levels. See, there's intelligence to my humour.
Yeah, no, Beth, that was actually really
super
funny.
intelligent. Taglines, baglines, swaglines, taglines, maglines. 3 taglines, 2 are written by me, 1 is for this bad film. Number 1, 2 journalists, a small European town, and a mad scientist. What could go wrong? Number 2. Sorry, Beth, do you want
to... Nothing.
Number 2. Wanted, 2 thrill-seeking reporters, brains optional, looking to dig up the story of a century for information for Transylvania 65000. Number 3. Vampires, werewolves and mummies. What else?
So, I know that it's number 3, I think. Because we've spoken about it previously. Oof. On a recorded episode, I'm pretty sure.
Oof, yeah. Beth, what are you saying?
I'm really thinking about it this time because
Good.
last week you criticised me, both of you, for not thinking about it.
Yeah, because you actively said you don't give a shit.
Yeah, so I'm pretending to give a shit now. Are you happy?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's the key to any relationship, is to not deal with the issue, but just pretend to care more about the thing.
We don't have to do this once every 2 weeks. It's fine.
I know, but for some reason, every time I hear you read the taglines, I'm transported to the same place, like every week or every 2 weeks.
What, of every time you lose?
Every time, and it's like this weird room that I'm sitting in, and I'm alone, but I can hear your voice echoing like the loudest, like through a tannoy. I don't know why. It's really strange.
Okay, so if people could let us know if anyone else feels like that, or if Beth, is just having some sort of existential crisis triggered by a tagline for a movie.
This is just a report of like an assessment of my breakdown over the course of a few months.
Correct.
I do think it's number 3, but I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I'm siding with Seb. It just feels right. Number 3 feels right.
Well, Seb came in fucking hot, and the hubris, mate, of you thinking that you knew what this one was is insane, because you were both wrong.
Which one was it? You know what? I think we were talking about the poster.
I read the synopsis.
There was a synopsis, and in it said something about, could it be? And we were laughing about if films were like, could there be vampires? And then there wasn't any vampires. I think that's why wires got crossed.
The actual tagline
is it number 2?
Is wanted to.
Why did they write it like a Lonely Hearts ad from the mid-2000s?
Well, the thing is, it says, wanted, brains optional, looking to dig up the story of a lifetime. For information, call ... And then it has the title of the movie on the poster, Transylvania 65000.
Incredible. That's actually a work of art, I think.
It's not. It's really not.
I felt so strongly, and I feel kind of deflated now. All of my knowledge has been taken from me, I think.
Yeah, this one's kind of done me in again.
I was so confident about that. I feel like I don't know anything anymore. I don't know who you are. I don't know who Beth is.
Yeah, well, that's why I like this, because it keeps you on your fucking toes.
That's a good little game.
Yeah, I broke them sometimes. They're still hurting. They're still a bit fractured, so chill out.
Next is The Fly. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. That's what I need in this time.
Yeah, because I've never seen The Fly, so I'm
no,
really
neither
looking
have
forward to this.
I haven't seen it in a long time, and I love David Cronenberg, so I'm excited for it. And I watched Videodrome not too long ago.
Well, I'm about to become dust, I think. So, everybody that's listened, thank you very much. You can get in contact with us on the usual ways at foreverinblum@gmail.com or Instagram foreverinblum. Bloom. Please share the show if you can. That really helps, and listen on Spotify because it's free and helps spread the word of what we're putting ourselves through.
Yeah. If we're going to suffer, other people should too.
Yeah, and I'll be really interested to know if anyone is or is up for or is watching the films along with us or will watch all the films. I don't recommend it.
Well, I think it's a good education in watching how films just sometimes are allowed to be made for no good reason.
Yeah, I think
Because people have money frozen in different Eastern European countries.
Yeah.
So yeah, join us next week, or nope, 2 weeks time, I guess, for The Fly.
The Fly.
Seb, have you got anything you want to ask old Jeff?
Do you know what? I'm being deadly serious when I say this question just came to me when I was at work the other day. Jeff makes me think of the sort of person who only wears like extremely specific materials for his socks. Like
Just
he only,
the socks.
Like he will only, like he has separate jazz socks when he's playing piano to when he has like. Do you know what I mean?
No, I can see that.
Yeah,
So you want to ask him what his socks do?
Yeah, Jeff, what those socks do? What do those socks do?
Well, on that note, see you later.
In a bit, but
Bye.
thanks.